Hello everyone. I'm going to demo the auto scale out, auto scale in functionality, how we can trigger the alarms from a vCenter server, vRealize operations manager, etc. And then I will be covering application authoring and then container and Docker. So first, before I go ahead and describe the functionalities, I will showcase my environment. I'm running a nested environment. That is, I have these four physical servers which supports the entire lab environment, and all the virtual machines that I have is running on top of this physical environment. And the ESXi servers that I have are all virtual ESXi servers. And the ESXi server, the hard disks that they have are also in a virtualized manner. It's a VMD case. So what I have done, I have created virtual ESXi, and on top of that, I enabled vSAN in a vFlash manner. So the flash drives that you see in the ESXi server are all virtual. Even the storage that I use in my lab environment comes from a iSCSI device, iSCSI storage, which I have configured inside a virtual machine from a VMDK. So this is the environment, and another point is I'm running VXLAN on top of VXLAN. That means this physical environment, physical server has VXLAN, and in my nested environment I have configured VXLAN NSX environment. So what it does, it limits my capability from in terms of networking capabilities from NSX perspective. Coming back to my environment, these are the environment that I have. I have 6 ESXi hosts, ESXi 1, 2, and 3, and ESXi 4, 5, and 6. The 4, 5, 6 I'm using for hosting the NSX controller. So that is the NSX cluster. All the 3 controllers are hosted there. And these 3 ESXi hosts, ESXi 1, 2, and 3, provide the computing capabilities for my environment. And if I go into this cluster and go into configuration, you can see that the vSAN is enabled, and the disks that I see is coming from these 3 ESXi hosts, and the disks are all flash environment. So though this environment is entirely virtual, but I have these as vFlash. So whatever I create inside this environment ultimately goes to a VMDK. So the environment is pretty slow. Please bear with me. When I deploy a virtual machine or a set of virtual machines, the deployment is going to be pretty slow. But the thing is that advantage of the positive side of this is the robustness of the solution. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to deploy a multi-tier application, typically 3-tier application, DB and web layer. From vRealize, I have the blueprint ready there. So when the application should be deployed, the 3 different layers will come under these 3 different pools. And for my demo purpose, I have configured these web pool alarms. So the definition of the alarms are here. If I see that auto scaling CPU up and auto scaling CPU down, and the alarm that I have set is on the CPU only. So it's like you give an alarm name, the virtual machine want to monitor the virtual machine or anything else, and then the alarm that I'm setting is VM CPU usage is above 75% for say 30 seconds. You can control each and every of these parameters. See how much is the threshold that you want to set, or how many seconds or minutes you want to set it. All these parameters are configurable, right? And you can add more parameters as well. Say for example, you have CPU demand to entitlement ratio, CPU ready time, usage, disk abort or disk usage. Say heartbeat, you want to monitor the heartbeat of your virtual machine, or memory usage or network usage. Based on that VM state, you say you want to send an alert. And you can say trigger if any or all. If the conditions, you can set those conditions as per your requirement, right? So these are the alerts that you send. So I go ahead and configure that alert, and then the action that is there for this is I want to send a notification trap once when the alert turns from yellow to red. That is the alert that I have set. So you can double check that auto scaling CPU up on this object triggers when any of the following conditions are met. CPU usage is above 75% for 30 seconds, and then actions are send a notification trap once. Similarly, I have a CPU down alert that I have set. It's like CPU usage is below 20% for 30 seconds, it turns into yellow, and then for less than 10% for 30 seconds, it turns into red. And the action that I have set is again sending a notification trap. So whenever the VMs that runs under this pool meets this criteria, these alarms are set. Now this is, so vCenter server is now the source, and consequently I have configured vRow to be the sink of that particular trap. So whenever a CPU usage, say SNMP trap from vCenter server level comes, it actually sends a trap and it traps that and then does fires these two workflows, scale up or scale down. And this is the entire setup. Now when I say application triggers, I can simply go ahead and configure the vRealize operations manager for sending me the traps as well. Why I would go ahead with vRealize operations manager? Because it gives me more capabilities in terms of sending alerts. Say for example, you want to monitor an application that is running inside a virtual machine and want to send a trap accordingly. vRealize Operations Manager, first of all, it monitors a lot more parameters for your environment, and the second thing is it monitors your application. It can monitor your application as well. So depending on the parameters, you can simply send an alert. So if I can go ahead and send notifications, here I can see that I can set a notification, and the method can be REST plugin, a standard email plugin, or SNMP trap plugin. The problem with SNMP is it sends the traps, all the alert that comes, it sends all the traps. REST-based plugins would send you specific traps as well. So I can configure this SNMP trap and then select instance where it should go. And then you define the scope. See here you have object tags or applications at the tiers. So I can set an application as a scope. So all the alerts that will be sent, it would send only alerts from the application, not from anything else. Then you define the notification trigger. What is the alert type and impact or the alert definition? And you define an alert definition. Say for example, CPU usage. I want to see virtual machine CPU usage. It's a performance related alert. Object type is virtual machine. Criticality one is red, then it will send me an alert. And then you can define the criticality, warning, intermediate, or critical, when that alert will be sent to you. So you can send those alerts here. You can further use filters like alert state, assigned, open, suspended, and then alert status, whether the status is cancelled, updated, new, and the collectors, or say which collector you want to get alerts from. So you can further drill down there. And then when it comes to alert definitions, you go ahead and define alerts as per your requirement. Okay. For example, if I go ahead and define an alert, say I give it a name, and then base object type, you define base object type. We have so many things. It can take from HTTP post as well. So vCenter adapter or NSX adapter, anything that you can monitor through VRops, you can send an alert definition for that object particular. I can even send an alert for container as well, right? Like for a particular container, I want to get that alert. So you select a base type. Say I can directly set vRealize automation blueprint, or set tenant level, or set reservation policies for that matter. So vCenter adapter for this instance, I'm saying virtual machine. Right? Alert impact, what impact it has. Say it has an impact on health, risk, or efficiency. And then criticality is symptom based or critical, immediate. What application, if I talk about application, like I said, availability, performance, capacity, which category it falls into. So I can set that, for example, virtualization or hypervisor performance. If my CPU goes beyond 70%, my performance will be hampered. So I'm setting a performance, and I can set a wait cycle and then cancel cycle. A cycle is 5 minutes long, right? And then add the symptom definition. Right? See, for example, you search a CPU, and then for CPU, what symptom that you have. Right? You see high CPU time on each virtual machine, high ready time on each CPU, or usage. Say, see, so you can, I see that there's no symptom definition for CPU usage. I can see that there is a lot of alerts. There are a lot of alerts for CPU. So the symptom definitions that you see, you can define your own symptom definition. Say, for example, if I want to select here the vCenter server adapter on the virtual machine is mine. I want to select any of the parameters. A CPU usage is the parameter that you want to monitor. CPU usage percentage. Okay, so give it a name. Say VM CPU usage, right? A critical metric is greater than or greater than equal to, less than or less than equal to, is not, and then you can say is greater than 90%. That becomes my critical environment. Right? So that is my threshold. That is my cycle, and I can define my wait cycle or cancel cycle before this alert is sent to me. Evaluate an uninstantiated metric also I can select. I can select the wait cycle is 1, and I have 7. Now if I can go back, I can simply check in the alert definition. I can create a new alert definition. You can create a new alert definition, set test, and then base object type is vCenter virtual machine, alert impact, let it be like this, and a symptom definition. If I now search by custom, I can see that the VM CPU usage custom definition is there. So I'll simply click and drag it in this. I have some challenge, it seems, that clicking and dragging, but anyways, you can simply click and drag. Yeah, fine. So we can click and drag and then click on save, and it would save the alert definition. And then in the notifications, you can use this alert definition to send a notification to your VRO server. So the alerts that come from for this demo comes from center server, and let's go ahead, and I have a multi-mission here deployed. So let's go ahead and deploy that multi-tier application in my environment. Click submit. I have requested for that resource. Right. I can see the details of this deployment from execution information, which stage actually exactly is in progress, which stage that is executing, all that information. While it's deploying, I wanted to showcase one point that here in NSX configuration in my environment, you can see that there are only two edge devices are there. One is the logical router and another one is the logical edge. So I don't have anything load balancer configured in my environment. So while this machine is deployed, let us go ahead and have a look at the blueprint from which it is running. So multi-tier app, I can see that this blueprint has three different components: web, app, and DB. Web component I can scale up till 5 instance. Because in running environment and in the production environment or where you are running in real time, you will have a limit on the number of virtual machines that you can have. Because unless you do that, there is a possibility that it can hog up all the resources for your environment, because it can deploy, keep spinning a virtual machine. You need to keep a tab on that. So my app environment is, so it can scale up to 4 instances, and DB is a single instance, it cannot scale out. And you can see that these three are attached to three different networks that is coming from NSX server. The interesting part is I have an on-demand load balancer configured here, which has a VIP network from web, just web, that same network, and it is applied on a web layer. So that means whenever this VMs or the set of VMs would be deployed, web layer VMs would be automatically connected to an on-demand load balancer. And if a new node comes, so when I scale out, those new nodes will automatically be added to this on-demand load balancer. And same time, when I take out a virtual machine, it would automatically be connected to this on-demand load balancer. Going back to the NSX environment, you can see that there is still no yes, this is getting deployed. This on-demand load balancer is getting deployed. If I go back and check, but before I do that, let's see. There are three different security groups. So the virtual machines will automatically be registered with these security groups. One is activity monitoring. Each and every virtual machine is part of that group. I'll be able to do a monitoring of the activities in the virtual machines, and then three different block SSH group. The rules are such that the virtual machines would be able to ping within the web virtual machines would be able to ping within each other, but from app virtual machine you cannot ping to web, and from web to DB you cannot do that. That is the rule that I have set. Now let's go back to the request and see the status of the done execution information. So I can see that these stages are successful. On demand NSX edge deployment is it has been provisioned, but its on demand is awaiting, because the edge was deployed only when the virtual machine should be deployed, the load balancer configuration will be finished. So in this stage, I can see that though the edge deployment was done, the on-demand load balancer configuration is still waiting, and it is waiting for the virtual machines to come out. If I go back to vCenter server, I'll be able to see and track the virtual machines that is being created. One point to note, the alert that I set was set on web pool, right? But the thing is, the virtual machines that are being created is under production cloud. So we will have to set the alert on production cloud, because it's not propagated to the parent. So what I will do, I will actually delete the alert from here and set it there in the production cloud level. Okay. say I add one alarm and trigger is CPU stage 75 for say 75% for 30 seconds. For this demo, I wanted the time to be as minimum as possible, and simple send a notification trap once. That's the alarm that I have set on the production level. And the second alarm that we'll do is auto scale down. At the production cloud level, we will define this auto scale down. Correct? We will disable this alarm for the time being. We want usage is say above or below say 20% for 30 seconds, and critical condition is for say below 10% for 30 seconds. What I would do, it should send me a notification trap. Let's double check it. The actions are send a notification trap once, and CPU usage is below, and for CPU up alert should be send a notification trap, and CPU usage is above that. Now my virtual machines are got deployed, and take certain time for them to power up and then configure rest of the things. What I have here is inside the virtual machine, the template that I have used, I have one application called LookBusy, which imposes certain workload on top of CPU, so that when I run say LookBusy, it would send me an alert. That's the primary idea of this, and based on the alert, my VRO should run the workflow, which will actually give me the scale up and scale out functionality. For example, if you actually look into come here and under deployments tab, you'll be able to see that there's already a scale out and scaling functionality. But as of now, it is manual. You will have to manually select scale out and scale in. We're trying to automate that particular functionality here through VRO workflow and alerting mechanism. While it gets deployed, let's talk about the blueprints that we configured here. The blueprints that I had is a pretty straightforward blueprint, but at the same time, you can have pretty complex blueprint entire stack. Say for example, LAMP stack with load balancer. Look at this blueprint. What we have here is four different virtual machines. One virtual machine is the load balancer. The second one is LAMP 1, LAMP 2. At the back end, you have a database, and these components are the software components that we have defined. We had a defined software components. So when I click on software components, I can see that all these definitions are there. You click on any one of them, and you get to see the details. Okay, Apache server, these are the properties that it's expecting. These are the properties that I'm setting. A PHP, the properties that we have set for that. MySQL, these are the properties that is expecting. Password, root username, bind IP, DB port. Those configurations would be asked from you at the runtime. To do this, you go to software components and define the software components. For example, I had a pretty simple environment, say environment config. I wanted to deploy a virtual machine, and then on top of that, I wanted to deploy a software component. Say this is the virtual machine that I am talking about. Is this? So it is deploying a Linux machine, and then environment config installation. What I am doing here is I am calling out a software component. It's actually setting up my environment to use Artifactory as my yum repository, and then from there I'm getting applications. I'm going to showcase the details of this script. So I'm getting this get configuration instruction package. I define that the description where it needs to run, where it needs to run on machine or on top of a software application. So I can create nested software packages as well. Next, if you want to define any properties, you define the properties and the property comes up in your environment. So I have this script which actually consists of the Yum repository and then Python repository. My artifact server is acting as my Yum repository and the Python repository. So I'm setting up that environment and installing applications from that. And in the next stage, I am installing those applications. Here, just to showcase, I have one property. I'm just taking up the name, and then I will just use this to say hi. Just an example, right? I'll just echo the installation complete. But in this case, I'm just downloading those packages from the Artifactory server that I have configured in the RDS stage, and just running a shell script inside the virtual machine. The shell script that I have downloaded from Artifactory server to set up my environment. That is one of the examples. You have say deploy Duke's Bank database setup. So you have the software component which does that. So it's a containerized MS SQL database, and in that you are expecting all these properties. You are setting all these properties. You are using that in your script so that at the runtime those would be utilized. So let's go to the catalog item, and then I have this test software deployment. Let's figure that. I can see that the base thing does not expect any properties after the VM is deployed. It's expecting me to give me a runtime parameter, so I will give my name, and then I will say submit. The request has been submitted. My earlier request, let's see whether it's finished or is still running. It's still waiting. In the meantime, test soft deployment is also in progress. Those machines are being powered on. Note the IPs that it is getting. The app IP is 20 range. The DB is it should come in the 30s range, and then 172.16 or 30, and the web should come into the 10 range. These IPs are coming from the NSX environment, the IP range that I have set in the VRA, and it would be attached to the NSX logical VXLAN. So you can see that it's automatically attached to the logical web, and is attached to logical DB, and the app layer is attached to the logical app. The software that I was deploying, the machine has come up here, testsoft 00. This is the software that is being run. The VM is being cloned now. So we will wait for some time for the deployment, entire deployment to be finished. So I can see that web app server has been succeeded and is waiting for a web and DB component. While it gets deployed, let's have a look at the container side. You can see this tab, that interesting tab here in containers. It's the VRA 7.2. We have support for containers and photons out of the box. So I have a Docker container host ready, which is running again in this this environment. This is the V container. Docker container. If you look into my catalog in VRA, I have a Docker Photon OS request. I can actually Photon Docker engine. I can request this and I can get a Docker ready at the runtime. So I'll request for a Docker Photon machine which will work as a Docker host. So you can give a description, say test, and testing, and then you can give the authentication password, root, which particular port it should look to, what is the container connection parameter that you should take, say HTTP or HTTPS, all that you can set here, and then submit the request. So right now I have 3 parallel requests going on. One is for this multi-chair application, another one is for that software component deployment, and the last one is for my Docker component. When the Docker machine would be deployed, it should automatically come up here as an available host. If I go into this vRealize container, I can see that the host, that there's one container that is running here. And say I can go to templates, I can search for the template place and deploy any of the templates from here, say Postgres or SQL, or for example, let's define Hello World. Say let's deploy this, provision this, which business group I want to deploy it to. So I'll deploy it on the test and say provision. The moment I say provision, it started deploying say container allocation Hello World engine next, and then it's provisioning inside that, and it's finished. So if I click on that, I'll be able to see that this is my, click on that the containerized application. I can see that it has started working. It's running on Docker 6, and I can see the console here. This is the port in which I can go to connect to. See, your Nginx container is running. So this is how easily I can deploy containers in through vRealize. So I have requested for that container host. I can add container host at any time. Say it's just getting deployed in my vCenter server. It's just getting deployed there. If I go back to my vCenter server, I can see that the virtual machine cloning is going on. It's getting deployed. I have another Docker. I have Docker 6 running, 06 running. I can see that Docker 07 is getting deployed. So if once this deployment is done, I should be able to go back to my Docker host. I can see Docker 06 is running. Docker 07 should automatically come up here as an available host for my containers. Right? Going back, let's see whether my multi-chair app has been deployed successfully or not. Okay, so I can see that my entire environment deployment is successful. If I go to items, I should be able to see multi-chair app that's there. I can see the different components under it, test GB, WebDB, and the test app. Now, one interesting thing, if I go back to NSX server, I go to NSX Edge. You remember that Edge that we deployed, that was deployed. If I go back to that, under load balancer, I can see that this is automatically configured for the components like 172.16.10.11, that the web component is automatically added into this pool. So you can see the application profile, everything is automated on-demand configuration. You don't need to configure anything. We'll come back to this later on when we will successfully scale out our application. So let's go back to say web test web 03. And open its console. Let's see. Log in there. So I have started the CPU hogging application, and it should fire me an alert in on and about 30 seconds. I'm monitoring that alert. Just wait for some time so that the alert will be fired from here. Just to showcase the NSX functionality, in this machine I have this 172.16.20.10. Let's see whether we can ping 172.16.10.10. So remember the security policies that you had in place. Go ahead and check the security policies that you have. Go back to Service Composer Canvas. We can see that block SSH group. There are the machines that has been already added to these groups, right? The virtual machines that has been added to there. And at the meantime, it seems that my deployment is taking some time because, as I mentioned, my resources were pretty less at the back end. So due to some resource constraints, the multi-tier applications resource implementation or installation failed. So I'm doing another installation of multi-tier applications, freed up some resource at the back end, and then I'm doing a deployment again. So it's going to take some time again. In the meantime, what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and have a look at the software deployment that I did using application authoring workflow. So let's go ahead and have a look at that. That successfully got created, test software deployment. So let's have a closer look at the deployment of that particular application. So if I go to the execution information, I will be able to see that it ran successfully this environment config install package. If I see the details of this, the beautiful part of it is whatever it ran, whatever came out as an output in the screen, it got captured here. So I can see that it took my Artifactory server as a Yum repository, and it installed. I installed a couple of packages, Python packages from here, Python back to setup tools. So those packages got installed, and then I again downloaded and installed Python will from again my repository server. The next stage, I configured Artifactory as my Python package repository as well. So it downloaded this lpthw.web, which is web.py project as a spin-off of that project. It's a very lightweight web server that's written entirely in Python. So I downloaded it and installed that particular package for me. So that package is available for me. In the next stage, what I did, I configured my environment. So it downloaded this. You remember I have shown you that it downloads a package from Artifactory, so shell script from Artifactory, and just runs that shell script, so which sets up my environment. At the same time, the parameter that you mentioned, that I had just given my name as an example, that if I pass a parameter, it gets captured here. So I just outputted, echoed my name and then say expression complete. So it took that parameter and gave my name, and it printed out here. So similarly, you can take any parameter at the runtime, and during the build, it would be used. That's how you actually build. This is a pretty simple and straightforward application offering. But as I have shown that we have a pretty complex, full-blown environment as well. As for example, Duke's Bank application for vSphere, which is a complex environment. I have an Apache load balancer configured in front, and then app server node, which runs JBoss app server. So if I click on the app server, I'll be able to see the details of the app server. Click on JBoss app server, I can see the properties that is expecting to set up that environment. Remember the properties, it can be used at the runtime. And then Duke's Bank, this is an application which is running on top of an application. So when you define an application, I've shown you that you have a machine where that application can be deployed, and then a software component where the software can be deployed. So Duke's Bank is an application which can be deployed on a software, right? So that's how you build custom blueprint, complex blueprint, and deploy the application at the runtime. So I don't need to reconfigure everything. I just define the software components, and then all I need to do is just click and drag. Click on software components, and then click and drag. The e-commerce app DB, you want to click and drag, just click and drag. That's easy. So that is the reason with VRE, what you can do essentially is bare metal VM template configuration, and then configure everything on the runtime. You deploy the software components, and at the runtime, you go ahead and deploy it. So for example, if we go to the software component and Duke's Bank, let's check the Duke's Bank web application. So it runs on top of JBoss application server. The container is a JBoss application server. It can be machine or different other containers as well. So I would suggest this much, that if you have a pretty dynamic environment where you have different components which changes regularly, so you go ahead and take these software components or blueprint offering capabilities where you just define the units, and at the runtime build a blueprint which is just a click and drag application or drag design mode, build different units, take different units and build a custom solution on top of that. And now when someone goes ahead and equals those components get deployed at the runtime. You don't have to do much or worry much about it. Right? The test software deployment environment. If I go into it, yes, it has my environment. I go to project. That project was configured at the runtime. I go to project. I see the environment that's there. I see web and the template, the binary file CD pin, and there I'll be able to see the application that I had run app.py. So if I run Python and then app.py and say 127 port 880. So my application, my web server started, which is listening on this particular. If you go to this IP from this VM, you can go ahead and see that port 880 this particular web server is started. So that is how you actually go ahead and configure runtime application on the application offering on the runtime. It's pretty easy. At the same time, let's go back to the container. We had deployed dev07. See, Docker 07 has come up here. It's automatically. I deployed the virtual machine. It has come up as a host. And see, now I want to go ahead and deploy a template. Okay. So the host has come up. Let's change the parameters a bit. Placement soon I want to give it to VIC container. Credentials has automatically taken. At the runtime we have taken the deployment policy. Let's take say Docker deployment and verify and update. And then from template, let's go ahead and find anything. We can take something from here as well. Okay, we have found this template. Let's try to provision it in my test environment. It has started provisioning. Meantime, let's go ahead and still in progress. Did you get the IPs? Check on that. 30.11, 20.11, 10.30. Okay, so it has come up. Everything is successful. It should be visible on the items. Container deployment also finished. If I go to this container application, I'll be able to see the details of this container. Right. 04. in this at the back end so that we'll be able to see the top. Actually, it's not picking up the CPU. That's the reason we're not able to see any stress. Okay. Foreground is running, but it's not hogging CPU. It seems. Let's search for any other command which could put some stress on that. Okay, so it seems that there is some problem with the look bz command itself. Sometimes it runs, sometimes it does not. We have other command. Let's see. It's a simple Linux command which will put a lot of load in my CPU. My CPU should, like you can see that it went to 99.3%, 98.7%. Now let's go back and check in center server. So 30 seconds it should run. Yeah, I can see that, you can see that this trap has been sent, and we can see that auto scaling CPU up alert has been fired from here, and it should start this workflow. You can see this workflow has been started, and it's just waiting for the event to be completed. Now, this has fired a task, and if I go to requests in VRE, I can see the scale out operation has been it has been fired from here. If you go to this particular request, you can see that it's just a request which should fire and VM creation here. We don't need to run this anymore because we can kill the see that yes, it has 2569, right? So let's kill -9 2569, and let's check. It's running. There's another instance that is running 2565. So let's kill that as well. And 2565. Because it has been successfully fired. Task is initiated, right? Test web 04. And you can see that there's another VM that is being spawned, that is test web 05. It's just being cloned. So we're scaling out here, and after the note, the point is after the scale out, right now, if you go to your load balancer, so if you go back to your NSX edge and check the load balancer there, in the pool you can see that there's only single virtual machine. The web server 04, 172.16.10.13 is there. It is there. After this virtual machine is cloned and it's deployed successfully, it should come out here as well. It should be dynamically added to this load balancer. That is what we want to showcase. That irrespective of the trap that comes, once the trap comes, I mean, irrespective of the source of the trap, if I want to scale out, it may be CPU usage, it may be memory, it may be network bandwidth or disk usage, or for that matter, if it's your traffic that comes into that here, we would actually showcase how you can query. We will not showcase the exact end-to-end workflow, but we would showcase that actual query that you can run to get that traffic information. From NSX load balancer, querying the NSX load balancer, it's pretty simple and REST-based query, which is not complex to get parameters from there. It should not be a problem. Let's just finish this scale out operation. See, the scale out operation that I wanted to showcase. Share. So, if you go to Postman, let's get that age ID. So you can see that the age that has been deployed here has an ID of 15, age-15. So you can simply go ahead and query the NSX load balancer. I'm just doing a get operation on the NSX load balancer. If I query that load balancer for the statistics, I can see that it has the timestamp. It gives me the timestamp. The pool, that pool 1 is there, then pool 1, pool on demand load balancer. The member 1 is 172.16.10.13. And the bytes in, what the parameters that you can get is bytes in, bytes out, current session, HTTP request total, HTTP request rate, maximum sessions that there, the rate limit, rate maximum, total sessions, the status, whether it's down or up. Right now I can see the status is down because the parameters that I'm monitoring is not monitoring those things. I'm not running anything there on the HTTP port actually. The bytes in, bytes out, you can all get that. The virtual server IP is 172.16.10.12. That's where you will get the heads. That's the virtual load balancer VIP. The status is open. It should give you the bytes in, out, current session, number of HTTP requests, total, the request rate, request max, all that information you should be able to get from the simple query. So if I can just get do that query and get that XML format, I can get that. I'll get that reply in the XML format, and from the XML I can pull out that information, the information, that particular field that we want. I can simply go ahead and use that information to run my other workflows. Scale out is still going on. VM05, we got it. IP, I got it. IP is 172.16.10.14. Right, that's the IP that I have got for that particular scaled out application. Still in progress. Let it finish. At the meantime, I wanted to showcase another small point. When you deploy a virtual machine in vRealize automation environment, all you should be worried about whether the VM is running healthy or not. See, for this particular virtual machine that I have in my environment, please bear with me. It just crashes and then comes up, and because of so many nesting I have done in my environment. So the items are what I wanted to showcase. If I go into any virtual machines, and I should be able to set state this information is current health good. This information is coming from vRealize operations manager. So if there is any issue that is there in this particular component, I should get an alert here saying the state of that machine, whether it's yellow, it's amber, or it's red. I'll be able to tell that, okay, but there is no other monitoring environment that I have in VRE, but it integrates with vRealize operations manager, and till the time it's green, that means it's my environment is running fine. It goes into yellow state or any other current any other state, I should contact my cloud admin saying that this particular virtual machine has some problem. Please go ahead and check it. So that is the integration that is there between VRA and VROps, and it's available for any component that you have in your environment. Like anything that you deploy, it shows you, it comes up here once it's integrated in the current health is reported there, so that you always know how your virtual machine is running, how the environment is running. Okay, the scale out is successful. So if I go to items tab now and multi-tier app, I will be able to see that another web server has been added in my environment. Web 04 was there, Web 05 is there. And now if I go back to my load balancer, let's go back to the edge and let's go back to the load balancer. I should be able to see, yes, that has been added automatically without me doing anything. And now why the node was showing down, because it's monitors the port 80, since inside my virtual machine nothing is running on port 80, so it says the virtual machine is down. But the thing is that the important part is this has automatically been fired out. Now the problem that I will face here, since look busy is somehow not working for me today, I don't know where I have worked with it so many times. If I enable scale down, it would send me alert on each and everything. So let me just do this. I will disable this alert now, auto scale up alert now, because I'm going to force CPU utilization on all the virtual machines except the one that I want scale down to happen. So I will disable this particular alert scale up. Okay, and then I will fire the same task that I was running here and say, let's go this virtual machine and all the TG04. So yes, we will do it, and dev null, and it will run at the back end. DB server has GUI, so let's log into with the username as root. Comes up, let's go to soft 0. Do this as well. See the top here. Yeah, so it's running successfully. And for web, we don't want this to go up. We want it to go down. So change pool to page. Right. Let's go to DB and check here as well. Open terminal. I wanted to see one thing. Look busy, but worked for me pretty well in real environment. Look busy minus. Okay. So let's do this. Let's see 99%. Let's see top here. I'm surprised look busy works in this particular machine. See, just having 99%, and it's taking 98%. And if I do this, the beautiful part of look busy is I can put the load as per my requirement. and I just see the CPU utilization comes 50%. I'm surprised why it's not working on the other environment, which is similar in CentOS 7.3. I'm running the same environment, but still, it does not work there. I'm really surprised here. But let's not waste time there in the troubleshooting. Let's start the auto down. Auto scaling CPU down alert. We will enable that and enable this alert. So this alert should come only on test web 04 and 05, right? Let's go to test web 04 and see the CPU utilization for that matter. Let's turn top 12%. It needs to come down. Okay, 0%. So we want to scale in now. Okay, that error that you see, it should fire. Yes, you can see that auto scaling CPU down alert, 1% alert detected. So it has initiated this workflow here, which is scaled down. Again, then you can see that earlier scale up workflow was successful here and scale down that I'm doing, but it has sent me 2 alerts because my other machine is also has sent me an alert, which will create a bit of problem for me. If I go to request, we will see that. Okay. So first one request failed because there are only 2 virtual machines in that particular environment, and you cannot go actually showcase one use case that what if I have only 1 virtual machine left and I want to scale in there. You cannot scale in, it would fail. That is the reason it failed because there are other active requests on the corresponding deployment that is going on there. Okay. Now this scaling operation that is going on, if you go to the execute information that is waiting on this virtual machine to be deleted web 0, web 1, and then it would update this on-demand load balancer. Note that it would actually update this on-demand load balancer as well. So let's see whether this virtual machine is being deleted. In the meantime, we can go ahead and disable that alert because we have already got what we wanted. So let's disable this alert for my environment. Down alert, I will go ahead and disable this. Okay. In the meantime, you can see that it has already powered off web 05 and then it will delete this particular virtual machine because I'm scaling in, right? So this particular virtual machine has been deleted. If I go back to my VRE and wait for a couple of say seconds and 15 seconds, it should reflect here that that particular virtual machine has been deleted here, and it should go ahead and update the load balancer for that information. So essentially, while it's being done, so what you can see that this particular workflow that scale up and scale out workflow, scale up and scale in workflow that is running on VRE is available whenever you give it a trap. So I have configured a SNMP trap. You can configure a REST API trap as well, or a SNMP trap from VRealize. It will fire this workflow, and this workflow actually goes ahead and utilize this when you go to this this particular workflow action item that you have scale in and scale out. It actually calls out to these 2 actions for scaling out or scaling in and does the tasks for you. If there is only 1 virtual machine, you cannot scale in more than that. See, it has been successful. Now if I can go back and check my load balancer again, I should be able to see that it should be updated automatically. It has been updated automatically. One portion to note, while scaling up, it adds 1 particular virtual machine while scaling down, it deletes the virtual machine that was added later. It will not remove the first virtual machine, it will remove the second virtual machine and the third, and so whichever virtual machine which was added later, it would delete that particular virtual machine. So that concludes my demo, scale out, scale in, as well as the other use cases of application authoring and the container deployment. I can see that the container has been deployed. I can see that 3 containers are running. I can go ahead and check the details of the containers, and up and running containers in my hosted on Photon environment is as easy as just searching for and deploying it in your environment. Right. So that is what the power of vRealize automation. Thank you for your time.